Hey, book reader friends, this is Christy with TattedHatGirlReads, and I first want to say to each of you who have subscribed, thank you so much. I am so glad you're here. And to each of you that have left a comment over the last couple weeks, I sincerely appreciate you, and I have enjoyed conversing with you in the comments, and I will continue to do so. I have no problem with replying to each and every one of you. So thank you for being here, and thank you for engaging, and thank you for keeping the comment spoilers free and just making this a community that is peaceful and cozy and making it more enjoyable to be here every single week. Keeps me feeling like, there is a community for me and a place for me here in this community with you. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and let's get talking about the book that I'm currently reading. This is week 3, and in this video, we will be talking about 2 books that I'm reading in the month of January, about the book that I'm currently reading right now this morning. I'm actually listening to this one because I'm doing immersion reading. I happen to love it. I did a survey question on Threads, actually, if you feel that audiobooks count as reading, and so many people said yes, but what I really appreciate was one person wrote, think of this as someone that loves you reading you a cozy story. And I was just like, that is so beautiful, but you're still spending the time in that book. And I also find adding the physical or ebook copy to the audiobook has made my life so wonderful. And this morning, while I was taking Betty, my little girl cat, outside, I let her roam, and I'm sitting out there listening to the book and just zoned into that and playing with her. And it was so fun. But then I'll come back in and I'll do, okay, what did I remember from it? And I'll do a few little markings of things I want to mention. And sometimes I'll sit and actually follow along as it's reading to me. And I'm just like, reading right with the person narrating the book. And the narration on this is fantastic. I do not like it on the second book, and we'll talk about that in a minute, that I'm actually reading. But the Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb, I am in love with her writing. I absolutely love the way she spins words and sentences and creates vision for the reader. It's just spectacular. This book is a coming of age story. So I will, I guess, say that. Many people seem to have this preface that you understand that this is about a 6-year-old in book 1. And it's a coming age of as he reaches his manhood. And I personally thought, okay, everyone's warning me about it. I was really beginning to worry that from a child's perspective that this would not be a good book. And that is quite the opposite. A boy and his dog's named Nosy, and they're in adventures in chapters 1 and 2 together. And they run across this little girl named Molly. Her nickname is Nosebleed. So that gives you a little backstory right there on her. And that's not a spoiler. It's literally in chapters 1 and 2. I will always try not to leave spoilers. As we get further in the series, there might be things I have to leave out in the reviews because of giving too much out. This has been spectacular. I thought he was just called Boy and New Boy, according to the 2 chapters that I'm in currently. And I'm kind of incorrect on that. Reading the back of the book, it says young Fitz, so his name is Fitz, is the bastard son of the noble prince Chivalry, raised in the shadow of royal court by his father's gruff stableman. Fitz is treated as an outcast by all royalty except for the devious King Shrewd, who has him secretly tutored in the arts of assassin. Stop right there. It's an assassin story. The title kind of gave that away, but you never knew. For me, you don't know what character that speaks of. Knowing that this is about Boy or the new boy or Fitz, and that he becomes the assassin just excites me. I love an assassin story. Sarah J. Maas, I fell onto her world thanks to Throne of Glass being an assassin story. I love an assassin story. There's a couple stories that shock me. Assassin stories and a female lead in a Western. I don't know where that came from, but give me either of those and I'm happy. So this book is just going to capture me and keep me here. And I think the series is going to be spectacular. I have the first 9 books. I started looking into 2 more installments, I guess you could say. which was the Soldier Sun trilogy and the Rain Wilds Chronicles. Those two are not published by Del Rey. Those are two other publishers, I assume. I don't know the backstory as to why they're not Del Rey. So I started looking into getting those today so I can go ahead and make sure I can get my hands on those. I am just enamored with this book, and I just can't express more how I can only be in 2 chapters and love a book more. It's just wow. I will be updating you continuously as I finish throughout this book. Again, I will always try to be spoiler free, but George R.R. Martin even reviewed this series. Come on now. If you have not started a series or want to start a series and you haven't started this, go start with the Farseer trilogy and see how it hits you. I'm in love. Book 2 that I am reading for the month of January. You all know that I'm already reading it, so I'm going to just go ahead and show you now, because if you've watched any of my videos, you know it's on every Kindle device I own. And I had tried to start audiobook of this. I did not start audiobook until I got to the Lightbringer book, and that was a huge mistake because I have the voices in my head of each character already, and I didn't enjoy the audiobook's narration. It didn't feel like there was enough separation amongst the characters, and there were accents there that I had not envisioned in my head. And then that's okay. You know, that's to each its own. If you like the audiobook, continue on. But because I've done 1 through 5, I should not have started audiobook in book 6. I knew that I wanted to take on some big stories this year, and that my reading goal went from 60 down to 30 for this year because of it. And I'm a full-time student and of a university, and I'm also taking on NASM courses for sports nutrition. So I absolutely wanted to do a little bit of more audiobook this year, but also longer stories that I could be in. And that almost ruined this book for me. So I went all the way back to chapter 15, which is where I picked up the audiobook and started rereading it. And I'm so glad I did. The Red Rising series is dealing with Darrow and Lysander, and Lysander is a gold and Darrow is a red. And they're split, as many of these stories are, into categories of their color alliances. And there are other colors like purples, I want to say grays, but yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I'm right about grays. But basically, Darrow is the Reaper born from the death of Darrow's wife, Io. And Darrow wants to take down the golds. He wants to break down, and he's created this rising where Lysander is a gold, and he wants to give back the supremacy of the golds and give them back their rightful place in the world. And it's as the book says, it is a multiplanetary story. Speaking of Lightbringer itself, which they all are, you're dealing with multiple planets, but Darrow being from Mars, Lysander wanting to take Mars down. That is the main gist of Lightbringer. And it's Darrow dealing with his good and evil side, basically. I wouldn't call necessarily the Reaper evil. He is trying to correct the way of the world. Unfortunately, he's losing a little bit of his humanity and his side of being Darrow or Red, more compassion. He's just doing as the Reaper needs to get things done and take control back, and he has one focus. And unfortunately, he's losing friends, and he's hurting relationships, and his family is suffering, and he is battling with that. And I think that's just a beautiful battle to have to go in. You want to protect the world and you want to love your family, but you're sacrificing your family to do what you feel is right for the world. And you're giving yourself 110% continuously to the world, and everything around you is in fire or rain. And if you've read any of the series, you know what I'm talking about. I am in love with the characters of this story. I'm in love. Even when Lysander is growing on me, I loved him when he first was introduced to the story. And then there was book 5 that I was just kind of like, man, Lysander annoys me. So when I found out Lightbringer was dealing with Darrow and Lysander heavily again, I was like, seriously, Lysander again? But there's parts of him that I understand. The way of the world just kind of hardens you, or there's things that, have been happening in your life and that you want revenge for. So I understand where he's coming from. And Pierce Brown has given him a little bit more humanity again in this. This one is reminding you his love for his people. And it's two, Darrow and Lysander both are trying to protect their people and then their perspective of how that should be done. And I'm just telling you, it's powerful. It is a really, really wonderful story. And I just love how both books that I'm reading are dealing with that, how the world does affect you and what does that create? What person do you become? Where do you stand? Do you turn your back on your upbringing, or do you embrace it and let it create this thing of you, whether it be a monster or whether it be someone loving and defensive and protective of the world and your environment? I recommend both of these series, honestly. There's nothing I can say bad about Pierce Brown's writing, absolutely nothing I can say bad about Robin Hobb's writing. I am in love with both writers. When book 7 comes out and it is finished, I'm going to miss these characters so much of the Red Rising series. You could technically read the first 3 books and you could technically be done, but I encourage you, if you've only read the first 3, keep going. It is such a great series. I picked up Red Rising book 1 in the summer and I was like, oh, it's a small book. It's going to be a great pool read. I actually have to replace that book now because I got it wet from the pool, and I've grown so in love with each of these characters. My husband brings up a great point. We're curious what Pierce Brown will write after this series. Some authors write their few, I forget the author. Is it Gillian Flynn? No. Writes Sharp Objects and a few of those books. She just disappeared. I'm hoping he does not do that because I am also interested to see what else he will do after the Red Rising series. Robin Hobb's, my gosh, I'm just in love. There is actually a book 3 that I'm reading, Way of the King by Brandon Sanderson. You may have heard of it this year already. If you've watched another one of my videos, you understand that this is the year of beginning the series that I own that I haven't even started. So that's another one, is book 3, but I haven't gotten far enough in that one to discuss it with anyone yet. I will work on that in the coming weeks. I had to get my footing a little bit. I don't know if you follow me on Instagram. I don't even know if I talked about it on TikTok, but I had to help one of my cats pass this week. So even showing up today was kind of like, I'm not sure if I'm going to show up this week. And I said, you know what? You've made a promise to everyone that has subscribed. You've made a promise to show up weekly this year. So do it, darn it. And the books are a place of comfort, and I enjoy that. So I am definitely here for the year with you guys. And I appreciate everyone that has kept me going and encouraged me this week, because this week could have been difficult. It could have been really hard to be here today, but your comments and everything really have just kept me going. And I love it. And I appreciate the community here so much. As soon as I get into a little bit more of Way of the Kings, I will speak on that one. I will tell you along the way with Lightbringer and Assassin's Apprentice, which is in the floor right now. I will tell you a little bit more about how I'm feeling about both of those as I keep going. Probably February on a recap. We'll see you next week. Again, don't forget to subscribe if you don't mind, and stick around and let's keep talking about these books.